Hello. Humans are also a type of animal, and that must be right. A while ago I saw on TV that cuckoo birds lay their eggs in other cuckoo birds' nests. I wondered how sneaky that is for a bird to do, but there was another one so sly like that around me. I didn't know that for over 10 years, I had been raising a cuckoo chick. The person who did such a terrible thing to me was none other than my mom's youngest sister, my aunt. She was my mom's half-sister, whom my grandpa had outside of his marriage. My mom was fond of her because she had a large age gap between herself and her half-sister. My aunt had nowhere to turn for affection, so she was very fond of my mom as well. Even though my mother got married, my aunt practically lived in her newlywed home. She came over to babysit me on behalf of my parents, who operated a tailor shop. She was there to see me. Rather than say that she took care of me, she just played with me because the age difference between my aunt and me was only 7 years. So people who didn't know often mistook my aunt as my sister. The aunt, who was bullied by my maternal grandmother, was more comfortable being at our house. So once she asked my mom, Amanda, could I not just become your daughter? I'll be a good girl. I don't want to go home. Mom often gets angry with me. Please, let me be your daughter. My mom felt sorry for her and how much she must have been abused at home for her to say that, so she asked my dad to have my aunt live with us. Thus, she stayed with us until she graduated from middle school and got a job at a factory. Next was she got a job at the factory, she had to live in the company dormitory. But on her days off, she came to our house to sleep overnight. Because we lived together for so long in the same house, my aunt and I were close enough to share our secrets. I would talk about dating that I couldn't tell my mom and get advice from my aunt. My aunt also used to take me with her when she went on dates. Then, I didn't hear from her after she got married to someone out of town. Estrangement of out of eyes. Out of mind was not confined to just between a man and a woman because my aunt and I were also. Even after my aunt moved to another town for a while, we used to say hi on the phone. And then life got busy, so the number of calls decreased, and then it became rare. Then we lost contact with each other. I reconnected with my aunt when I turned 23 years old in the spring. Up out of nowhere, my aunt came to our house and started pushing me to get married to a guy she wanted me to meet. She said it would be such a waste to miss such an opportunity. The man has a solid job and comes from a rich family, and he is good-looking enough. Just hearing from your mom, it seems because of your dad's gambling debt, their tailor shop and the house got attached by the bank to be put out on auction. So wouldn't it be good if you meet someone who could be of help to your family? So if he gets married, he would help to get back your house. Isn't that a wonderful opportunity? Listening to my aunt, of course, it sounded all good, but it was more because of that I couldn't believe her. I didn't understand why she would suddenly come to see me to refer me, only a high school graduate, to a person who had spent so much money to get her house back just to marry me when he was so good with a good job from a rich family. Like said, there is no free lunch in this world. However, there is only one thing. That guy has a child, but he is free and clear legally. It was a child from a woman he was dating briefly, casually. But he is a good man from a nice family, so there is no greater man to marry. My mom must have already heard about him from my aunt that she was just dabbing her tears from her eyes. She couldn't outright tell me to marry someone with a child, so she was just waiting for me to decide. When I saw her like that, I couldn't bring myself to refuse flatly, so I said I would first meet him before I decided. So that weekend I went to meet the guy with my aunt. He came out alone, the man, who said he was 9 years older than me. But he didn't look that old. Besides, as my aunt said, he had good manners and was a good-looking guy. He didn't seem like a guy who already had a child, my aunt left. And I was left alone with a man. I was so shy, so I couldn't even lift my head. But he said, "I'm sorry. I already have a child, yet I'm trying to marry someone without a child. It's not too late and you can refuse me. Don't you? You don't need to suffer by meeting an old guy like me." He spoke in a calm, low voice, and for some reason, it made me feel at ease. Like my aunt said, except that he had a child. He was definitely a very eligible man to marry. It was clear that he was a good husband. It's not like I'm here because I was forced to. Don't worry about me because I heard all about you. Next time, let's meet together with your child. Before we got married, should I get to know each other with your child so it'll be comfortable for him too? It seemed that he was relieved only then. Even though he said that we didn't need to get married, but as a father, why wouldn't he want to get a mother as soon as possible for his child? After our first date, we had a date with his child by going to theme parks and movies, trying to get to know each other better and closer. In that fall, he and I had our wedding. His parents told me not to prepare anything for the wedding since they knew our financial situation, but my mom said that she personally wanted to make the bedding for us and made us our bedding as our wedding gift. After living with my in-laws for 1 year, we moved out to have a place of our own. His father saw how well I kept house, and he gave us permission to move out. He says I got along well with the child who attended kindergarten, so contrary to initial worrying. I was able to live as a daughter-in-law of a wealthy family. Just around the time of my wedding ceremony, I learned for the first time that my in-laws were running a quite famous apparel company. My father-in-law was the chairman while my husband was working as vice president. But it wasn't that they were wealthy by generations, but his father had immigrated and struggled hard and became a self-made successful businessman. Thus, his family lived modestly, and my father-in-law was a tough head of the household. However, my father-in-law was very fond of me, so we were able to move out and live independently, and received spending money my father-in-law gave to me secretly from my husband, with which I was able to help my family with their living expenses. Even though I got married as a second wife, I was well served as a daughter-in-law of a wealthy family. Then, one day, my aunt came to see me. She said she had nowhere to go because she got divorced from her husband and asked me to let her stay with me for a while. So I told her that I needed to ask for my husband's permission and called him. Of course, he happily said it's okay. Since she was the one who introduced us, it was the least thing he could do for her. But I didn't know that would be the beginning of my unhappiness. While my aunt lived with us, she helped me with the household chores, so I was able to visit my family more and meet my friends to go shopping together freely. Moreover, it was great that I had my aunt to chat with every day until that happened. One day, I went out to go grocery shopping, and it happened to be close to my son's finishing school, so I went to pick him up. Then, he said that my aunt kept calling him my son. So I told him that she was calling him that because Michael was so cute, but my son frowned and asked, "Then why does Dad call her honey?" "Isn't that what you call Dad?" According to my son, my aunt called my husband honey. Then my husband would also reciprocate by calling her either honey or my darling. And first, I thought my son was mistaken. However, once in a while, when I came home after going out for a while, it was often that my husband was at home before my aunt came. He used to come home late because he was very busy at work. But it wasn't anyone else but to suspect my aunt and my husband, who is my aunt's nephew-in-law. It just couldn't be. On top of that, I was very close with my aunt like sisters. But enemies are usually within close to you. I was betrayed by my aunt. Esther happened when my father-in-law had a lunch appointment nearby and came to our house. He happened to see my aunt who was doing dishes in the kitchen and started to scream and curse at her. "How is it that you bitches here? Aren't you afraid of God? What did you tell me when you abandoned and left your baby? If I gave you money, you would never show up here as if you were a dead person. Did you say that or not? How could a leech like you come back here, you sly old bitch? Get out of here right now. Now, here you sly old, get out of here right now." Now my aunt knelt down in front of my father-in-law and begged for his forgiveness. "Please forgive me. I was going to stay out hiding, but I missed my son so much, so I couldn't help myself. I won't let on that I am his mother and live quietly. Please let me be by my child. Please. I'm begging you, Father." "Father?" I thought my heart would stop when I heard that word. And as soon as he arrived at the hospital, he passed away within 30 minutes without hearing the story behind. Much of all this between my aunt and my husband. I had to hold a funeral for my father-in-law, and after the burial, I got divorce papers from my husband a month later, together with $50,000 for my alimony. As you now guessed, your aunt gave birth to my son, Michael. If my father didn't oppose her, we would have gotten married. I'm very sorry, but now that my dad has passed away, I think it's only right that I put everything back for the sake of our son. Michael, also, wouldn't it be better for you to find a new life for yourself? With this money, you should be able to buy a house. At that time, you could buy a condo with $30,000, so $50,000 was a large sum. However, it was very little when you considered my husband had a large business. If it happened now, I would have hired an attorney for more settlement, but at that time, I didn't even want to talk with him who gave me the shutters. Acting as if my aunt knew what she did was very shameful. She refused to see me and had my husband take care of everything. So I got divorced after 5 years of marriage and returned home. But when my mom found out, she said she was going to kill her half-sister and ran over to their house. But my aunt wouldn't even open the door and just called the police on her. So my mom ended up being arrested and was dragged to the police station for trespassing. When I ran over to the police station, I saw my mom so dazed, as if she became a zombie, that I vowed that I would become so successful and take revenge on them. After that day, with the money that I got from my ex-husband, I set up a clothing factory and got a store space in the wholesale jobbers market and started doing the wholesale. Across from my store space, a large retail department store opened, drawing many retailers to my store, so the clothes got sold very quickly like hotcakes. I needed to take advantage when the going was great that I had my mom, who was running a tailor shop, to join my factory operation to help me. Fortunately, many of my mom's friends who used to run an apparel store were just staying at home, so it wasn't hard for me to get additional help. Then, one of my regular customers asked me if I wanted to open up a shop at his shopping center. So, I also opened up a retail store in the shopping center across from my wholesale market. And operated it at the same time. With that as a start, that customer and I became very close. But because both of us had an experience from a failed marriage, neither of us brought up the subject of remarriage that easily. So we decided to be just friends. Still, whenever I needed a handyman at home, he would come over quickly to help me, so my mom was treating him like her son-in-law. Because I designed my own brand and combined wholesale and retail, my bank account balance was growing and we were able to live quite affluently. Since my mom was getting on in age, she quit the factory work and retired along with her friends. In the meantime, the offline shopping center started to become less popular and changes started to come about in the retail industry. So my friend asked me to do an online shopping mall with him. Because my daughter has majored in design, so she said she'll manage the homepage for us and asked me to try it. So let's do it together. It seems the future perspective is brighter in online shopping, as my gross sales were decreasing, so I needed to do something about it. Thus, I decided to do an online shopping mall with him. Although we didn't need to have a sales clerk, we needed to take photos and upload, package, and ship. Fortunately, my friend was very capable and found appropriate help, so we were able to start our business. First, we invested half and half, so I felt our company was stable. We struggled with our business our first 6 months, but soon, with the word of mouth, our customers grew, and in 1 year, we had to increase our employees and expand our factory. At that time, my partner's daughter graduated from college and said she would help us with our online shopping mall business, so work became much easier. Since we worked together all day long, I became fond of my partner's daughter. Then one day, my partner's daughter asked me to see her out of the office as she had something to discuss with me. Now that you both had spent so many years together, why don't you get married? If you are delaying it just because of me, you don't have to do that. I won't live with my father for that long, and each one must find one's own happiness. So I hope that you will become my mom. I will act as your daughter. I guess a barber can't cut his own hair, and it was my partner's daughter who stepped forward to arrange our remarriage. It wasn't as if I had no feelings for him, and I was not young anymore. So with a slight push from my partner's daughter, I acquiesced to get married. It was embarrassing to have a wedding ceremony, so we just registered our marriage and went to Hawaii for our honeymoon. The person who was so happy to hear about my marriage was my mom. Because of her half-sister, my mom thought my life was ruined, so she held the pain in her heart all this time. Late extremers. I found a good man to love and be loved, so she said she had no more wishes before she died. Now we're just living, so why die? Live long, so you could get a lot of love from your daughter and your son-in-law and watch us living happily. So don't think morosely like that. My mom nodded, but not long after that, she passed away after having a rough life. I cried so much at her funeral because I could see her happy face being so glad and relieved that finally I got married to a good man and would live in luxury, receiving lots of love. But someone totally unexpected came to my mom's funeral. That happened to be the one who destroyed my life. She was my mom's half-sister, my aunt. That's as soon as she entered the funeral parlor, my mom's sisters attacked her, grabbing her hair, and started to curse at her harshly. "You horrible woman! How dare you show up with that shameless face of yours here? It wouldn't be enough if you paid my sister back for all the kindness to you all your life, but you dare to stab her in the back. You betraying sly woman. Get out of here. You take after your own mother, who is a tramp to leech off other people. What crumbs are you looking to pick up here that you come back here? I'm sorry. I have nothing that I could say to her. She treated me like a human being, so I wanted to at least say farewell. I'm so sorry." She put her head down in front of my mom's coffin with her whole face covered in tears. She looked very old now and shabby. It was hard to think that she was the wife of an affluent businessman. That didn't mean that I would forgive her for what she has done to me. Here and there, boiling hot anger would suddenly burst out, making me feel that I wanted to just erase her out of my mind. So I dragged her arm out of the funeral home and kicked her out. Don't act like you are a human being just because you act this way. You'll never be forgiven, so leave when I am telling. When I'm telling you nicely. I tried to suppress my angry feelings and let her go. Then she said, "Amanda, I have a favor to ask. My husband told me that your store is doing well and your online shopping mall made a huge success and you made a lot of money. So I would rather die before I ask you this, but could you lend me some money? My son, Michael, caused an accident and a person is injured. If I don't make a settlement, he would face a prison sentence. You know Michael since you raised him, how kind he is. You can hate me, but once Michael was your son, so could you have pity on him? I'm begging you, so please lend me some money, please." Instantly, I can furious. She selfishly ruined my life, yet she still hasn't repented and dared to come to borrow money from me. She was taking me for a fool. Otherwise, she couldn't ask me like that, right? Like, you crazy bitch. What? Michael was once my son. How dare you blabber your dirty mouth like that? How is it that he was my son? He was the one you abandoned. Right. When I was raising him, he was a kind child. But why is it that he became like that? He was taking after trash like his dad and trash like his mom. That's why. You have ruined your own son yourselves, and how dare you come to me to sell your son to beg for money? Do you know how much I lived in pain because of the bastard and a bitch like you? You should also live in pain that you made from your own child. Don't try to leech off of others cosplaying to be a good mom. Even if I have enough money to burn, I won't give it to you, not even a penny. So get out of my sight, as your shameless face makes me sick. If you don't disappear this minute, I'll call the police. Even though I shouted at her, she still wouldn't budge and held on to me, crying and asking me to lend her money. So I ended up calling the police, just like she called the police on my mom in the past. Even though there was a chaotic moment because of my aunt, my mom's funeral was over smoothly. A few days later, my husband and I went to the wholesale jobbers market to thank all those merchants who came to my mom's funeral when I heard someone fighting nearby. It was a store clerk and a laborer arguing in the wholesale market, where there was a lot of helpers who helped to move merchandise. Who has paid a few dollars for each customer to deliver to nearby retail stores or shopping centers. As we approached near, the helper looked familiar. He looked very old and shabby, but certain it was my ex-husband. He was fighting over $1, so I thought, in life you reap what you sow. He threw me out without even saying sorry by giving me a mere $50,000, and now was fighting over a mere $1. Who knew he would end up like that? Excitation, I wondered how my aunt found out about me, but he was the one who heard about me and told her about it. I wanted to give him a dollar bill to humiliate him, but I didn't want to be the same person like him, so I quietly turned around to leave. But he must have recognized me, and suddenly he called me. Amanda, it's me. You do remember me, right? I know you run a business here, but I couldn't bring myself to say hello. I heard that your mom passed away from my wife. I'm sorry I didn't come. And he was ready to put his hand on my shoulders when my husband pushed him angrily. Hey, Buster, who are you to put your hand on my wife? And why are you mentioning about my mother-in-law's funeral? What right do you have? Now that my wife has earned some money, do you regret kicking her out? Is that why did you send your rotten wife to my mother-in-law's funeral and cause so much havoc? I heard that from my aunt what happened at the funeral. I couldn't even sleep because I was so furious. Had I known about it earlier, I wouldn't have sent away your wife in one piece. How dare you talk to my wife? Do you have a death wish? I was waiting for this moment, so this is great. But now that I know you work on the street as a helper, I'll make sure you can never set a foot in any of these stores here. You can go begging, or however you will live, but stay out of my wife's sight. Otherwise, I'll make sure to kill you. Got that? My husband, who never even swore in his life to anyone, screamed at my ex-husband as if he was going to kill him. Then my ex-husband seemed afraid and ran away. After that, there was no sight of him. But even if he appeared, I had my strong husband next to me, so I wouldn't be treated like previously from them. After doing good, there's good fortune, and after doing bad, there's misfortune. Eventually, my ex-husband and aunt were being punished for their wrongdoings. That's why one must live honestly, even though they could get away with the law but not from God. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you will meet with kind and warm people forever. Please cheer for me and rate your comments of wisdom in the comment section. Pressing like and subscription is a big help to me. Have a wonderful day.